This week's guest on the podcast is Holly Ross, one half of The Lovely Eggs. The Lovely Eggs is about art, it's about creativity and expression, it's about following your own path and doing things your own way. Holly and her partner David operate on their terms, spewing out music, records, art and television shows before piling in the van and tearing around the country to perform a load of live sold-out shows. Their wild and willful independence sets them apart from other bands, and despite having no management, booking agent, record label or publisher, their last album, I Am Moron, shot to number 1 in the official UK independent charts, and they continue to sell out shows across the country. In 2021, they collaborated with Godfather of Punk, Iggy Pop, on their single I Moron and swiped the number 1 slot in both the official UK physical and vinyl charts. With observational and often surreal lyrics, The Lovely Eggs have a powerful, raw sound that creates the sonic illusion of a band twice their size. They have become known for their ferocious yet joyous live performances. The band have just finished mixing a new album with Dave Fridman, with latest single Memory Man released only a few days ago. The band are gearing up for the release of 7th album Eggistentialism, which comes out on May the 17th. After that they go on tour, starting out at St Luke's in Glasgow on May the 23rd. Hope you all enjoy the podcast. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, whatever you feel you can do to support us. But more importantly than all of that, enjoy. Pull me under, I give a chance, it's all it takes. This time out on the podcast, I have Holly Ross, one half of The Lovely Eggs, which is a band she fronts with her husband. We're going to talk about the band's career from the start and where it's going, where it's headed, with a new album, Eggistentialism, due out on the 17th of May. So, Holly, what I like to do to start, just take us back to what life was like for a young Holly Ross growing up. Where did you grow up and how did you get into music?
Well, I grew up where I still live now, which is in Lancaster, northwest of England. It's a small town. There's not really much going on. And there's this place down in the middle of town called Lancaster Music Co-op, which is this like rehearsal rooms and recording studio. It's all non-profit making, and me and a lot of teenagers spent most of our youth, just hanging about down there, getting up to no good and just like forming rock and roll bands. That's where I met David. That's where I formed my very first band, which was called Angelica, with 3 other of my girlfriends at the time. And then I'm still there now, I've just come back from a site meeting to kind of get the music co-op back up and running again. We're on this building construction project. So that's where it all began for me in Lancaster.
Fronting this band Angelica, what sort of, for what I've heard for it, it was quite kind of punky, right, girl type stuff. So Was that the sort of music you were into at a young age?
Absolutely, and to be fair, I remember my friend Bridget, she gave me a tape at school and she said, have a listen to this. It's not really my thing, because we were both like really into Nirvana and stuff when we were like in the 90s at school. She said, it's not really my thing. And like on one side was Buzzcocks, on the other side was Sex Pistols. And, as soon as I heard those bands, it just clicked a switch inside me. And I was just like, right, I didn't realise, I had no idea that there was a whole group of adults in the world when I was a kid that said fuck you to the system. Can you swear on your podcast? I don't know.
Yes, it's recommended.
Oh, good. So, I didn't realise that there were adults out there who said fuck you to the system, and to discover that was like a portal opening to me, because I always felt that way inside but didn't realise you could express it. And so that was it. And I guess Angelica, we were quite punky, and we were Yeah, we were, and very much into the riot girl scene and a lot of the female fronted bands that, well, not female fronted, but female bands that were out there at the time because, they were all female, which was great.
Why did it not happen for Angelica? What was the?
Well, we've been going for quite a long time. I think we called our last album that we did the 7 year itch.
Hmm.
And that was like, we'd been going for 7 years at that point. And that's quite a long time for a band that you form when you're like 14, 15. Do you know, it feels a long time. And I think that album didn't actually come out properly. It should have done, but it didn't. I don't know what went wrong with it. And this is the interesting thing, like going on to the Lovely Eggs, is like back in that band, when I look back, I realize I had no idea what was going on. Like all the albums, we had no idea like how they were distributed. We had, a van just picked us up and we went on tour, for example. We
Hmm.
had no idea who was paying for the van, who organized it. We never saw any money from shows ever. So who collected that? I don't know. Totally naive. Just was like caught up in like, I guess the industry, without questioning it all. And we earned no money from it. We never got paid a wage by the label. We never um, saw any money. We were all on the either signing on or part-time jobs, which we had to quit to go and play gigs sometimes and then, find another one. So it was pretty hard existence, to be fair. And I think that's pretty much probably sums up why we, we quit, because it kind of it just got too hard. We couldn't survive with all the jobs we had to juggle to make it work.
Yeah.
But I'm
So,
still friends with, like, Rachel and Claire, I'm very close to in the band. And, this is 20 odd years after, and we text each other all the time. And, when Claire comes back home to Lancaster, we meet up for drinks and stuff. So we're still really good friends.
hmm. So you mentioned obviously you knew David from the co-op. As far as I'm led to believe, looking online, it says that your first gig as the Lovely Eggs was in New York. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So why was that?
Well, just, I guess, reflecting on Angelica stuff, we never wanted to be seen as a local band, in a local town. So we just said, where do we want to play our first gig? And we just said New York's, because we love that place. We loved New York City. We had friends there. So we're like, fuck it, we're doing it there then. So that's what we did. But our actual first gig was well, not an accident, but we weren't meant to even form a band. Like it wasn't, me and David never formed the Lovely Eggs in a way that a lot of people say, I'm going to form a band.
Uh-huh.
Um, I was living in Paris, and David used to come over to visit me, and a mate of ours was round one night, and we were all drinking, and they said, like, I can't believe it. I can't believe that you can write songs, and I can't believe you two are musicians or whatever. And it's funny because we still never class ourselves as musicians. We always just say we're in a band.
Hmm.
Yeah, so we said, yeah, we can. So we wrote a song that night and she sung on it. And that's a song called Last Train to Ballard, which is one of the songs I think you might find on our rare Egg EP. And that was that. Then we were like, oh, this is quite fun, isn't it? And then I had this sort of like moment where I realized that music wasn't the same as the music industry, and that you could create music, play music, have an amazing time without all of the bullshit. And that was just like a light bulb moment for me. And we've never looked back. And so we've been going like 16 years now, and we just do everything outside of the industry with no bullshit. And it's just us doing everything. So it's a philosophy that we're still quite keen to maintain, really.
Uh-huh. So obviously playing in New York, and you says that you love New York. Were you influenced by any of the bands out there at the time?
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff coming out of the anti-folk scene back then, which was amazing. There was this like place called the Sidewalk Cafe,
Hmm.
This guy called Latch used to run these nights. I think it was on like a Monday night or something. And that basically loads of people would just turn up and just play. Like you just put your name in a hat and you get like two songs or something. And then it's full of mad people playing weird music all night, impromptu, it's not proper gig. It's like two or three songs and then the next person. And like people used to play like they're like the Moldy Peaches. And
That's
then
exactly who I was getting at, because
yeah,
like after listening to you the first time a couple of weeks ago, that's the band that I thought of straight away.
yeah, and I guess yeah, that there is that maybe sound on our earlier stuff. I don't really think so much on our later stuff, but definitely the earlier stuff was inspired by that whole scene. There were bands like Swerve On. There were people who were just getting on stage and just, reciting poetry and pushing the boundaries of stuff really excited us rather than just being in a normal indie rock band. So that was our motivation, I think, when we first started.
And early on, you had support for some of the big DJs going, Mark Riley, Hugh Stevens, Steve Lamacq, all kind of early on were kind of championing you, getting your radio play and stuff like that. So how important was that, having these kind of big, massive DJs kind of?
Yeah, it was, and that's what's dead surprising is like I say, this wasn't a plan for me and David to be in a band, like that does well. Like this, it was never a plan. We wrote some songs because we enjoyed it, and then we kept enjoying it, and then we thought, oh, shall we go to New York and play these songs live to people? And then like people picked it up on the radio, but that wasn't us like sending those out. I think we were working, we met some people from the label Cherry Aid Records who were like a bedroom label, and they just loved what we were doing, and they just said we want to put it out on a record. So we were like, okay, fine, yeah, do that. So they did. And that must have been how the DJs got wind of it, because we never pushed anything when we were first going. Like we weren't really interested because
Mhm.
we're just so driven by enjoying being in a band, which is kind of an alien concept to a lot of bands to actually enjoy it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they're too driven on like what their career ambition is or whatever, whereas we just really wanted to enjoy it. But yeah, getting on the radio was like, fuck, that's brilliant because like now more people can hear about us, and then we'd go to gigs and stuff, and they'd start filling up and that. We'd be like, this is crazy. So yeah, and that's one of the reasons why, Six Music and getting on Six Music has been brilliant for us because it gives small bands who want to do it a different way to like the mainstream major record labels. It gives us a voice because, you know, I guess that's what all bands are asking for is a chance to be heard. Not to say our music's the greatest music, but just fucking let us be heard. And the shite that comes out on like the major labels, some of it, and it is shite,
Hmm.
gets to be heard, whether it's good or it's shite, it still gets that platform. And that's not fair, inherently in the music business. So Six Music's great for that because it just lets smaller bands get a voice, which is what has given us really.
And the thing with that, the bigger picture is obviously, as you say, you're 16, 17 years down the line, you're still doing what you're doing. A lot of these bands you hear on Radio One, they maybe have a couple of singles, it doesn't go well and they're gone. So they might not have the longevity that you've ended up having.
Well, I think that me and David realised from the very start of the band that you've just got to love being in a band, you know. So for us, it's never been about what we can achieve. What's your plan? The people say, what's your plan for the next 3 years or whatever? Fuck off. We don't have one. Do you know what I mean? We honestly don't. We just love making music and meeting new people and going on tour, and free booze is obviously just the bonus on the cherry on the cake. Who wouldn't love doing that? So, and I think maybe that's why bands do split up because their expectations when you set your expectations high, you're always going to fail, aren't you? Whereas our expectations are really low. We always set the bar really low. So we never disappoint ourselves, you know. And it's worked so far for us because we're, you know, this is our full-time living. We don't have to work other jobs now.
Mm-hmm.
It's good.
Obviously, you mentioned that about getting free beer and stuff like that. You're checking your Instagram it this morning, and you seem to have built quite a community. You seem to have quite a loyal fan base. Fans giving you gifts at gigs and all that. There's plenty of pictures of cans of Stella and stuff like that. So, do you think that's just something that you've organically created, this kind of fan base?
Yeah, I do because when, you know, because maybe because we're normal, you know, I don't know. It's like we like meeting people on tour, you know. We enjoy, you know, you're like, oh, you're at Brighton, you know, today. Oh, great, we'll meet so and so, so and so, and so and so. And we always, I mean, especially prior to having a kid, we always used to go out afterwards, you know what I mean, for drinks and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
meet people and friends. And then the next time, well, we've met loads of friends through the band that we had no idea of who were before, who were fans of the band. And then we've met like promoters who put us on, who've become really close friends. So yeah, it's it doesn't feel in a sense like work to us. So maybe people see that and it's just a friendship thing. And, you know, yeah, I know we don't know everyone, but yeah, the community of people feels like they know us and we feel like we know them, even though we've not necessarily met them all in person,
Mm-hmm.
have in a way through our gigs and stuff.
That you've brought out a album with, is it Hot Pants Romance? Songs about people we met on tour. So is that that kind of feeds into what we were talking about before?
Yeah, so that was great. That was amazing. We went on tour with Hot Pants Romance. Can't remember when it was now. God, a long, long time ago. And we did a raffle to win, so you could win a song written about you.
Mm-hmm.
So we sold raffle tickets in the audience, and people bought tickets. We plucked out the winner. We got the winner on stage. We interviewed them, and we noted down some things about their lives. And then after we come back off tour, we literally got together in the studio and wrote an album about. Well, I say an album. It was a tape, and it was, I don't know how many ever gigs we want, how many ever songs were on. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, thanks for reminding me about that. That was brilliant. Yeah, and we said, okay, this is going to be called Paul. You know, and everyone was like named after the person's name, and then it included everything that they told us about their lives.
So can you get that? Is that available anywhere online, or is that just?
No, I don't think so. I need to look at. I need to do something with that. Really, look it up and try and listen to it again. But no, it's one of those things, and that's like that's part of the thing we like about the Lovely Eggs is like they sort of, and I don't know whether you might not get this, but like I'm a big philosophizer, and I think a lot about stuff, and I like the idea sometimes of things just being of that time, you know. So no, you can't, you know, like you can't get it anymore, and you know, it is only on that tape and stuff like that. And like if you go to our website, you see a lot of t-shirt designs. There's like absolutely loads because we do one, and then we're like, okay, that was that. Like we're not doing any more of that anymore. We're going on to the next thing, you know. So it's just to make those little moments of things rather than like this massive corporate. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah.
just it goes, you know, running them off. It's like when the idea has been realized, that's it finished, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I quite like that. So it's quite good sometimes some of our stuff is not available anymore. Quite.
Yeah, it kind of gives it that hint of nostalgia, doesn't it? Looking at stuff that is from that certain time that you can't
Yeah.
get.
And death, you know, like birth and death and yeah, something of the past. And that's a massive thing in mine and David's life, you know, things, you know, like we love going, you know, looking in skip diving and looking in skips and seeing, you know, and value, you know, what is value, and you see stuff and it means something to someone but nothing to somebody else, you know.
Mhm.
It's just an inanimate object, and we're kind of interested in all of that. So, but yeah.
So obviously I got in contact with you a couple of weeks ago, which I mean, I've for all this support for all these DJs and stuff, I hadn't heard of you up until you contacted me. So the first kind of song that I listened to was "Don't Look at Me, I Don't Like It" from
Mhm.
Cobb Dominoes, which kind of that's that album is kind of that's been on my playlist the last couple of weeks. It's I would say it's a brilliant starting point for them that's no listen to yourself. So where did the lyrics come for that song?
Well, it's funny because a lot of people like laugh at the lyrics of that song and like they think it's quite funny, but it comes from like just the mentality that of living in a small town like Lancaster and sort of being a bit of a freak or a weirdo, you know, and like back in the 90s, you know, people we were all, you know, a lot of the lads, you know, were beaten up all the time by, you know, townies because they had long hair or they didn't have the right haircut or they were wearing weird shoes, you know, and that got you a pasting. And it's kind of a piss take on that really because it was just getting to the point in Lancaster where, you know, you couldn't look different anymore without, you know, getting beaten up. And so we just thought we'd turn it back on them and just, you know, if you're gonna, you know, twat the shit out of me, I want it to be for a reason. So I need to really have, you know, washing line smile or, you know, let it be for something that's worth it rather than something that's not, you know.
Mm-hmm. And Sausage Roll Fun refers to, is it a comedian?
No, well, that's we got we got Graham Fellows who um plays the character of John Shuttleworth to appear in the video for it. And we got him to put a sausage roll on his thumb.
Right.
So yeah, he did that the video to that. Yeah, people that's quite popular that video. But it's interesting because it's a song that's on our second album and we're on to our seventh now. So it feels
Mhm.
like it feels like a long time ago that song for us.
The album was released on Valentine's Day as well. Was there any significance in that, or was that just the release date at the time?
Probably, but like you're talking 12 years ago.
Yeah.
I can't remember. No
And
idea.
obviously the next single for that, "Fuck It," was released on the May Bank holiday, which
Yeah.
meant nobody could buy it and there was no radio play because of the lyrics. But
Yeah.
again, that kind of feeds
That
into
was
that kind of punk ethos.
yeah, we did that on purpose because we, you know, just because we're like you know, cheeky. We just wanted to, we didn't give a shit really. So we just thought, right, well, we'll put it out then.
Hmm. Around about that time as well, you had Art Brut support. You were
Yeah,
with some shows with Eddie Argos. How was it going on tour with Art Brut?
brilliant. All I can say was it was amazing. And that tour, we bought our van, which is the Fiat Scudo van, our loyal subject. We bought our van for that tour and it's still, well, just going now. We think we don't we're debating whether we should scrap it or keep it, but like it's 20 odd years old and we bought the van just for that one tour because it was cheaper to buy a van than it was to rent one, you know, for
Hmm.
10 days or however long we were over there for. But yeah, that tour was amazing. And we made some lifelong friends with Art Brute. Like they're all amazing people and so welcoming and nice. And, you know, yeah, they're good to hang out with, really good people and great music.
Hmm. Round about that time as well, you had another single out, "Allergies," that was produced with Griff Rhys for Super Furry Animals.
Yeah,
So how was it working with Griff Rhys?
amazing. Again, just great, you know. I think he's into quite a lot of psychedelic music, which we are also, you know. And we wrote this song about the West Coast pop art experimental band, which Allergies is loosely based around. And we just asked him if he'd wanted to do it, and he was just like, "Yeah, totally." So he came up to Lancaster, came to the music co-op, was in the studio with us, helped us produce the record. He's great. Then he did the video for it with us as well. Like, he's just a really great guy. And like, that's one of the amazing things about being in the Lovely Eggs is like the people you meet, you know, the friends that you make, you know, the community. And it's so small actually, you know, when you think about it. It feels,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that people who are genuinely into really good music, you know.
Yeah, because I mean, through this interview, I've dropped that many names in. The next one, you had a remix with Chinder Singh for Corner Shop. He did a
Yeah.
remix for you as well. So
Yeah.
throughout your career, you seem to have been attracted all these other musicians that obviously get a lot of respect for you. Moving forward a bit, as you mentioned off mic, your son's due in for school.
Yeah.
Um, Touring, firstly while pregnant, and then going forward, you're still touring with your little boy coming and tour with you, for what I
Yeah.
can see. So what kind of difficulties come for that, and how do you all manage these situations on tour?
Well, not so many now because he's 11 nearly, so
Mhm.
it's all right. But there was absolutely loads when we started. Do you know, like we used to have to take a high chair with us, a travel cot with us. He was weaning, so we had to take loads of different food in different jars and like contraptions to warm it up. You know, fridge for milk in the van, like that plugged into the cigarette lighter. Yeah, it was pretty tough, you know. And like we'd be getting in, you know, 1, 2 in the morning from the gig, and then up at 6, you know, with him because you know, he was awake.
Yeah.
But like we've had like normal jobs, you know, office jobs, and you just when you've got to a point where you're in a band and you can live off that band, you never fucking want to let it go, you know. You just don't, because it's back to normal shitness. So we just clung on to it. We were like, we're not fucking letting this go. We love being in our band. We're just going to make it work. And that's what we've done. And it actually has been absolutely fine. The thing is like, again, lower your expectations. You know, we used to sound check in half an hour.
Hmm.
Like when other bands might have a sound check for a couple of hours, we could never do that because our little lad will be there, you know. So it'd be like, right, we've got half an hour to fucking nail this, and then we're off back to sort him out, give him a bath, you know, at the hotel, put him to bed. And back in the early days, I didn't want to ever leave the hotel without him being asleep because I didn't want him to know that I'd left him.
Right.
Because so he'd be all around and be like, "Oh, just stay with our friend who was babysitting, you know, in the dressing room while mummy goes to sound check." At sound check, then we'd be like, "Right, let's go and get something to eat. Right, let's give you a bath in your pajamas, get to bed." I would sit with him while he fell asleep, and then I'd creep off and play the gig, you know. And then he'd wake up the next morning at 6, 7 o'clock, and he wouldn't know that I'd even left.
Hmm.
Which was really, you know, important to me back then. But now he's like 11. He's like, go on, off you go. He doesn't need seeing to.
Right. And what's his kind of take on the music? Is he into your music?
Yeah, he is, but he's more into pop music, really, which is fine. You know, I really think it's important that you get your own, you know, sense of what music is good, you know. And I think it'd be something wrong if you like the same music that your parents like, you know, in a way. Like my parents always hated the music I was into. And, you know, I wouldn't say I hated the music he's into, but it's not necessarily my thing. You know, it's just like 11, you know, pop music that 11-year-olds like.
Yeah. Moving forward, then obviously, as you said, kind of like Cobb Dominoes is that far away from what you are now. Obviously, your last couple of albums have been a bit more heavier. You've both been produced by David Friedman, who's worked with Mercury Rev, Flaming Lips, Weezer, Mogwai, Delgados, and MGMT, amongst hundreds of other bands. So, what was it like working with him?
It was just a dream, really. It
And
was absolutely amazing. He's an amazing bloke. He works in a great way, and his studios out of this world, you know. We were so lucky that he would work with us, you know, because again, like you know, we're an independent band doing things our own way, and like to get to work with people of that ilk, it's pretty special, you know, for us. But also sometimes you find with people like that they just follow what they like, you know. And so he was just into our band and liked it. So
Yeah. So I mean that's the way the interviews progressed so far. It's been just these people that just come and they like the music and they want to get involved. So that's obviously
well,
something that you're attracting. You're giving off some sort of attraction for these.
it is because we've nothing else to give. Do you know? Like we have nothing to give. Like we've no money. You know, we have no connections. You know, a lot of the times it's just, you know, they come across us and contact us, or we would ask them. Like with the case of Dave Fridman, it was absolutely mental. Like me and David would just sit at the kitchen table, and David said, and we were talking about producers, and I said, don't you think it's about time we, you know, got a producer or work with someone else, you know, to be a bit different? David's like, oh, I'm not really bothered. I don't really want to ever work with Dave Fridman. I said, well, why don't we ask him then? It's like, are you joking? Like Dave Fridman won't work with two dickheads like us. He'll just never do it. I was like, right, rolling my sleeves. I was like, that's it. I'm gonna ask him. So he doesn't have an email on the internet to stop dickheads like us from contacting him and saying, will you produce my record? But I looked and looked and I found a phone number. And I was like, right, I'm going to fucking ring the studio. So that's what I did. I rung the studio, left a message on the answer phone, and that was that. Just didn't think anything of it. And then we went on and we album This Is Our Nowhere. And like 1 year later, we got an email and it was from him. And he was just like, am I too late? I've just checked my answer phone. I've checked out your stuff. It's good. Am I too late? You know, and we were like, no, you know, well, you are for that record, but do the next one, you know.
Obviously, the new album coming out in May is he working on that, or you get a different producer?
Yeah. No, we've done every when we first started working. So we did the first one we did with him was This Is Eggland. Then we did I Am Moron, and then this next one, Existentialism, is with him too. So he's done 3 so far. He's a glutton for punishment.
So this album, as I said earlier, it's out May the 17th.
Yep.
And then you're touring after that,
Yep.
starting out Glasgow on the 23rd, I think it is. It's
That's
St.
it.
Luke's. So what can people expect firstly from the album? Is it going to be more of the same sound for the last 2?
No. And so I think that's all I'll say. It's not going to be more of the same. I think they might be surprised by what they hear. Yeah, like I think me and Dave since sort of in the last 4 years, since COVID, like me and David have like been through quite a lot of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Not least, you know, trying to save Lancaster Musicians Co-op, which is this community recording studio and rehearsal rooms. And like we've been emotionally like to the point of breaking at times, under immense pressure to do stuff, you know, and also earning no money from the
Mm-hmm.
band because we couldn't tour and all of that. So I think this album is really a reflection of what we're going through, that period, that this last sort of 2-3 years.
Yeah.
And it's been a period of shit, really. So it'd be interesting. Yeah. And I think, and we didn't think about what it would sound like. We just recorded. It's almost like reading a diary. And it's like, oh fuck, you know, do you want to share that with people? But too late. It's done it now. But yeah. I think people are going to be surprised, but hopefully in a good way. You know, from the My Mood Wave, our first single came out. It came out physically on just Friday gone, but a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people have said, "Shit, that's different to your normal sound," but we like it, you know. So And for us as well, being in a band is all about forging new ground. We don't want to sound the same
Yeah.
because it doesn't scratch. And we're quite selfish, really. We're not in a band for anyone else. We're in it for us, really.
Yeah, so it's a kind of musical journey for what you are feeling at the time, and that's kind of captured in each record.
Yeah, I think it's that. I mean, yeah, lyrically, a lot of the stuff is what we're going through the time. And in terms of musically, I think we're just like at the point where it's like, fuck, right, this is our little space of not going through shit where we can make music. What's interesting to us, and there was no thought process. We didn't have time. We didn't have time for a thought process of what's this album going to sound like. It just came out as it sounded like. And that was just us, a genuineness of us in the studio to be like, oh, let's experiment with this. Oh, let's do that. Let's try this. So we'll have to see.
Obviously, the second question, um, what were for somebody like myself that's never came to see you live, which I'm going to make sure that I come and see you in Glasgow.
Mhm.
What can people expect from a live performance for the Lovely Eggs?
Well, I think a party atmosphere generally, and we always say this when we go on tour, and I hope people who come see us get it, is that we're not there to entertain an audience, right? And I know people buy a ticket to see us, but we don't see that as any obligation on our part to entertain because someone's bought a ticket, because otherwise you sort of feel like a performing monkey, and that's
Mhm.
not at all why I got into being in a band. So we see the band as like a two-way thing. So the crowd has got to be as into it as we are. So we give it our all, and we like to hope the crowd give it their all too. So whether that's, dancing down the front, or whether that's like shouting, like, giving us shit, but just making it like in a friendly way, should I say, not giving a, just shit for the sake of it, but having a good crack, basically. That's what it's about. And we want them to be part of the show like that. We had
Mhm.
we had a middle-aged crowd surfing championships the last time we went on tour, which was a bit mental. And then we got a bit like, oh, for fuck's sake, why have we done this? Like, people will be like breaking their hips and fucking suing us and shit. So but yeah, people like to come and have a laugh. That's what it's about. It's not about you've paid your money, now we're to perform, because we can't do it like that.
And like when you say that, so have you had any shows where you have felt that the audience has been flat and
Yeah, definitely. And I think, that's part of life. You've got to have brilliant shows, and you've got to have shit shows, and you've just got to have shows that are just okay. Because otherwise, otherwise every show would be great, and then that'd bring then there wouldn't be any great shows anymore. Do you know what I mean? You need dynamics within that. And there's been times we've come off stage and there've been amazingly special shows. And then sometimes you come off stage and you're like, what was that? But that's just the nature of being in a band. It's always going to be different. And that's why we have this campaign, which again we've been banging on it about for years, but it's like that thing of the fake encore.
yeah, I was reading that on your website earlier.
We're not against encores, but we're against fake ones. We're against bands who do them religiously every night, whether or not the set, the moment was brilliant or whether it was shit. They just play it as the encore. So we'll say, no, we don't play encores unless the gig is absolutely out of this fucking world and the whole feeling in the room is just going to go off. Then we'll play an encore. But 98% of the time, we won't play an encore.
Right, that's good to know. That's good to know.
We hardly ever, because no, you've had it, you've had your lot, that's it, fuck off, in a nice way.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at Glasgow. Obviously, I attend lots of gigs in Glasgow, and to be honest, I haven't seen a bad gig in a good number of years. So I would imagine St.
Well,
Luke's on the first night of the tour will go off fine. I would think that you'll
well,
have
there's always
plenty up
time,
interaction.
Martin. There's always time.
What's coming up after that then, touring wise? Like after the tour, you'll be into festival season.
Yeah, I guess we've got a few festivals, and just I guess a little bit of a rest for us because we've been foot to the floor since last September or before September actually in the summer, like writing and recording the album, and we just went to mix it at Christmas, and we're just out the other side of it now, doing all the singles and stuff. So yeah, the summer, and then we'll be doing some more touring next October in the
That
UK.
sounds amazing. I'll post all the links for the pre-order for the album. I'll post
Oh,
links for
thanks.
the
Yeah.
tour and stuff like that on the show notes. But last bit of the podcast, obviously, it's good time for heroes. I asked my guests to pick four heroes to come for dinner. Why they're your heroes and what would you cook for them?
Now this has been quite hard, right? And I don't know who to go for, but um my first hero I'm going to put Richard Brautigan.
Hmm.
He's one of my favorite authors, and I think he'd be very interesting to sit around a dinner table. Second, I'm going to go for. Can he be dead? Oh, because he's dead. Is that all right?
Yeah, yeah, dead or alive, whoever you think's a hero,
Okay. Uh, Next, Kim Gordon.
right?
She's an icon. She's one of my favorite women that plays in a band. She's a mother. She seemed to have got through a lot of shit in her life and out the other side and still producing amazing music. And the stuff that I've heard off her new album is absolutely sensational. So Kim Gordon.
Hmm.
I'm gonna put Jeremy Corbyn.
Right.
I campaigned for Jeremy Corbyn. When he was running for election. Um, and when they didn't win, I was absolutely distraught, and I just cut my links with politics. I was just like, so.
Hmm.
And I think he's a man who has real principles, and
Yeah.
I don't think there are many politicians like that left in the world.
No,
Um,
well, this is a fact. Like he was a Labour politician. I don't think you get like all the politicians now seem to be that they'll jump from one party to the next, whatever suits their needs at the time. So I think we've seen the last of people like a Jeremy Corbyn that hold their values true to themselves.
and it's so important. That to me is the number one thing in life is integrity. It's you've just got to have integrity, and he's a politician that's been pulled down for it, unfortunately. And yeah, I could bang on for ages about what this country would be like if Jeremy Corbyn was leading it, but I'm not going to. But he will be there. And what am I going to say? I'll say the Dalai Lama,
Right.
because I mean I've got a load of people here, but if I have to pick four, because I really like philosophizing, and I think there's more to this world than what we know, and I think if anyone knows about that shit, it's the Dalai Lama. So
Brilliant.
I would really love to, if he was coming for, you want to get talking about interesting shit, and if you want someone to, chew the ear off, I think he'd be amazing. I think he's the one out of everyone that I'd really want to sit next to.
And what was that author's name again? What did you say his name was?
Richard Brautigan.
So what did he write?
He wrote like well, lots of them books, but In Watermelon Sugar is one of my favorite. Confederate General from Big Sur.
Hmm.
um, Sombrero Fallout, loads. He's a really interesting author, and he writes in a style that I've never come across before in my life. And when I read his books, it changed how I thought books could be written, and it changed how I looked at life as well, because he got a very unusual way of viewing life, and it's something that I kind of aspire to do in the way I look at life as well.
Brilliant. I'll check him out. I'll have a wee look for some of his books. Out of interest on that list that you've got, what other names have you got kind of that have missed out?
Well, I've got like people like, because I'm very into history, so like Tutankhamun would be a good one. Because
Hmm.
I always think about the link to the past in Egypt and all the shit that's gone before. And there's so much have been lost, so many secrets of Egypt that have been lost that, you know, you could potentially talk to him about and find out what their belief system and how they built the pyramids, all of that.
Yeah, that would be amazing. That's like one of the wonders of the world, the pyramids in it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I've got a load, but
Well, we'll put Tutankhamun in as a honorary mention as well.
go on then, do that.
And obviously, the last bit of that was what would you cook for them? Now, obviously, again, by checking out the Instagram, I see that you post a lot of Dave's cooking skills. I think the last picture I seen was beans, fish fingers, and happy faces. Also, a tomato sauce sandwich, which I've no ate one of them for I was about 10. That brought back memories. So hi. So what are you cooking for your guests?
Well, I reckon last time when we were in America recording the new album, Dave Fridman had never heard. He didn't know what toad in the hole was.
Right.
So I would cook a vegetarian toad in the hole. That's what I'd do because I think, you know, it's a weird name. It's a weird thing. I was trying to understand it. And then I was like, well, it's like, you know, sausages covered in Yorkshire pudding. And then there's a whole new thing of what's Yorkshire pudding, you know. They need to explain that, you know. So I thought, like, yeah, why not that? So a veggie toad in the hole.
Yeah, that sounds lovely. I absolute pleasure having you on.
Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, it's great.
I'm really glad that I got your email, and like I'm just thinking like 2 weeks ago I'd never heard of you, and now you are constantly on my earphones when I'm at work at night.
Oh, that's great. You see, that's how the lovely eggs we convert we convert people one at a time.
Yeah. So it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you, and I can't wait to see you on the 23rd of May. But before that, 17th of May, existentialism, which is a really hard word to say when
it is. Try saying that when you've had a drink.
Yeah. So existentialism out May the 17th. Everybody go and buy that album, pre-order the album. The links will be in the show notes. But absolute pleasure having you on.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Thank you
so much for having me on. Bye-bye.
I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Time for Heroes podcast. If you would like to get in touch, the best way is on the Facebook page, Time for Heroes podcast, or on Instagram at Time for Heroes podcast, or Twitter at Time for Heroes P1, or drop me an email at timeforheroespod@gmail.com. You'll find Time for Heroes on all podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple, Google, and Amazon. Please leave a review where you can, share with others, and more importantly, enjoy.